What are you doing?
Alright, it's time to make my glorious return. This is Catfish, and I'm bringing you some Russian AKs. Ooh, look at that. We got the Arsenal SGL20 right here, 7.62 by 39. The quintessential Arsenal of the Russian era before the ban. And then we've got your FIME group imported Molot VEPR FM. This is the fixed stock variant. They also do a folder, which I have, but you know, I figure I'd do 2 fixed stocks here. So this was imported in 2008. It's got the 08 date there in my camera shit. But it's made at the Izhevsk, or what used to be called the Izhevsk factory. Now it's called Kalashnikov Concern. So basically, for a time, these SGLs, there was the SGL20, and then there's also the SGL21 and its variants, you know, the 31 and 545. These came in for several years from, you know, about 2008 to 2014 when they were, well, Kalashnikov Concerned was sanctioned for their activities in Ukraine. So these cannot come in anymore. They are effectively banned because of the sanction. So before that and afterwards, these were known to be, you know, about as close as you can get to a factory import AK-103, like built at the factory in Izhevsk. They did do a side folding version, which would be more correct, but I got the fixed stock here. This is kind of my old reliable. I really like this one. It's light, it's handy. You know, the profile of the barrel is more like an AK-74 or AK-74M. So it's, even though it's pretty light, it's actually really light in recoil because of this honkin' AK-103 type muzzle brake. But anyway, yeah, so these haven't been imported since 2014. So after Arsenal, or later FIME Group, who started bringing the SGLs in later in the game, they couldn't bring these in anymore, so they switched to the Molot factory. And they started bringing in these Molot VEPR FMs. I don't think they were coming in 2015. I think it started in 2016. That's all the trunnion dates seem to be 16 or 17. Anyway, they didn't come in for very long because in 2017, the Molot factory was added to the sanctions list. So these, we can't get anymore either. Both of these guns have shot up in value just insanely. It's mind-blowing what people are paying for these. Again, this is the fixed stock variant. I do have the folder as well, but I can't fit all that many guns on here. The folder, it's like a steel tubular, almost a Galil type stock. And it's got like a folding cheek piece. The cheek piece is not the greatest looking, but it does help when you're using an optic. You can flip that over and your line of sight is good. So yeah, so the differences between these, you know, the most obvious one is really here in the trunnion, the receiver, and here. The Molot VEPR FM, as you already know probably, is based on the RPK, or specifically I think the RPK 203 in the case of the 7.62 by 39. So it's got a 1.5 millimeter thick stamped receiver and a bulged RPK trunnion. So it's a bit more beefed up than your standard, you know, AKs. You know, this has a 1 millimeter thickness stamped receiver and the standard trunnion, standard profile trunnion. And then another difference is the barrel profile. This is a much heavier profile barrel. It's more like what a machine gun would have because it is literally just a cut down RPK. Whereas this is your thinner, you know, more of your standard infantry rifle type profile. It's pretty lightweight, especially under the handguards. This gets really thick, like THICC thick, because I love it. And it like never gets hot, even with just these wood handguards. And the recoil is also pretty low because of the increased weight. It's not that much heavier, but it is definitely noticeably heavier. This has 24mm threads. It is the AK-74M or AK-100 series type collar. It's longer than the old AK-74 type, which is supposed to help with accuracy. It might, I don't know. But it's really effective. And then your VEPR FMs have 14x1 left-hand threads, like most of your AKMs, like your Wassers and all that. So it can take any standard, 14mm AK muzzle device. I like a lot of people prefer the 14mm because there's more choices in muzzle devices, but really all the muzzle devices I like, you can get them in either thread pitch. So I really like this kind the best. I've found that the AK-74 type muzzle brakes are the most effective for mitigating, recoil and muzzle rise. But this one I just threw an old Tapco I had. I'll probably replace it eventually, but it kind of completes the kind of pseudo AKM look. So these two kind of filled the same niche. The VEPR FM kind of took over the SGL's place in the lineup after the SGLs were no longer able to be imported. But of course, this followed it a short time later. As far as which one is better, that's a really hard one. I have kind of a nostalgic connection to the SGLs because it was my first, the SGL20 was my first AK back in 2008. And then I've just shot them so much that I really like them a lot. And they're also very lightweight and handy. The RPK type, VEPR FM is quite a bit chunkier, but it's still very good. Oh yeah, that's another difference. This has the RPK type rear sight that's windage and elevation adjustable, whereas your SGLs or Saigas, had the regular, elevation only type. So as far as quality goes, I gotta say, I think the fit and finish, so to say, is better on the VEPR FM. Just the finish is more even and seems to be a little bit more resilient, at least the upper paint. These are both paint over phosphate, so both are fine. Both are the finishes you'd find on their military variants, so they're both pretty good. I think if I had to pick one, it would be the SGL, just because these are this is what I've shot more than anything else, or the SGLs. Really any rifle period. However, I would be loath to give up any of my AKs, but especially the VEPR. That'd probably be the second to last that I'd ever give up. But I'm keeping these, they're mine, and no one else's. Yet!